Hello again. This is Todd, and I'm currently at Blairsville New City Cemetery in Blairsville, Georgia. Sit back, relax, and let's take a quick little walk on this cute little cemetery.
Cemetery walks. Come on a journey through the veil of time, where the voices of the lost in the silence chime. With every step, their stories rise through the mist where history lies. A cemetery walks, we'll find their trace, unravel the lifetime can't erase. Cemetery walks, the past comes alive when history talks. Cemetery walks, the past comes alive when history talks.
And we have Ralph Watkins Dyer, Corporal, U.S. Army, Korea, November 26, 1931 to February 11th, 1999. This is June Woodrow Shroud, Master Sergeant, U.S. Army, World War II, January 23rd, 1912 to January 5th, 2001. Thank you much for your service, sir. This is Patrick Henry Akins, Private, U.S. Marine Corps, World War I, December 7th, 1896 to August 20th, 1985. Thank you much for your service, sir. Appears to be a lot of servicemen and women here. And we have some cooks here. We have more Akins, Joseph Marvin Akins Jr., Sergeant, U.S. Army, Air Forces, World War II, April 5th, 1920 to October 25th, 2004. And Benjamin Frederick Akins, U.S. Navy, January 19th, 1941 to November 6, 2004. Thank you both for your service. This is what originally caught my eye, was this mausoleum here. It has this very nice walkway up. This is for Pat and Maud Harrelson. And here is Louise Stallworth Harrelson, September 14th, 1910 to March 24th, 1993, wife of Frank Conley Harrelson. Wow. That's nice. I have some Caldwells here. And this is Butt. That's in the center there is Katie E. Butt, born March 1st, 1858, died October 6, 1909, aged 51 years, 7 months, 2 days. You have Garnett E. Butt over to your left. I'm not going to go inside there. This gate looks pretty rickety, and I don't want to. It looks like it's wired shut to begin with as well. So, in loving memory of Garnett E. Butt, born August 20th, 1886, died March 8th, 1910, aged 23 years, 6 months, and 18 days. And then Eugene W. Butt, born May 1st, 1844, died February 2nd, 1921. These here look fairly new. We're going to go take a look here, though. This is a Confederate stone for Second Lieutenant Thomas C. Hudgens. Hudgens or Hughes? Hughes, Hughes. Hughes, Company G, 65th Georgia Infantry, Confederate States Army. And that was Reverend Thomas Coke Hughes, born the 22nd of June, 1844, died December 26, 1932. Thank you much for your service, sir. Reverend Thomas Coke Hughes was born on June 22nd, 1844, the eighth of 13 children of Reverend Thomas M. Hughes and Nancy Bird, daughter of Reverend Francis Bird and Frances Abernathy Bird. He grew up in a deeply religious Methodist household in the mountains of North Georgia, an upbringing that would shape his path for the rest of his life. At the age of 18, with the Civil War raging, Hughes enlisted on September 27, 1862, in Company G of the 65th Georgia Infantry, a unit also known as Smith's Legion or the Georgia Partisan Rangers. He joined alongside his close friend Eugene Wellborn Butt, and together they saw the struggles of war. Hughes rose to the rank of second lieutenant and was present in the fighting through 1864. Both he and Eugene survived the war without injury. Returning home, Hughes set about his education. With little formal schooling, he immersed himself in the study of various religious texts and theologies. He ensured his learning of grammar and spelling so that his preaching would be strong and clear. His dedication transformed him into a well-respected and powerful Methodist minister. Hughes first married Rhoda P. Butt, known as Rhodey, a relative of his friend Eugene. Thomas and Rhoda went on to have 6 children together before her passing in 1883. Years later, he remarried to Sally Daniel, with 4 more children being born of this marriage. Throughout his life, Reverend Hughes was known as a circuit-riding preacher, traveling by horseback to serve the Methodist churches of Union, Towns, and Fannin counties. His sermons were plain-spoken but powerful, drawing large crowds to revivals and summer camp meetings across the mountains. He became especially beloved among the Black Methodist congregations of Union County, where the spiritual fervor of the gatherings was so intense that someone would often escort him safely through the crowds afterward. His presence and preaching left such an impression that he was remembered affectionately as the Bishop of the Mountains. Have some more butts here. These are quaint. These are weavers and weaver carpenters. Jesse Weaver Carpenter, October 22nd, 1900 to December 29th, 1922. She was the sunshine of our home. And Ira Clifton Weaver, February 14th, 1894 to October 8th, 1918, a good soldier. On October 8, 1918, while serving as a U.S. Navy troop transport in World War I, USS America suffered a serious accident. That morning, while anchored in New York Harbor and preparing to sail for France with troops on board, the ship suddenly took on water and sank at her pier in Hoboken, New Jersey. About 6,000 troops and crew were aboard at the time. Eventually, the bodies of 4 soldiers and 2 sailors, who were unaccounted for at muster, were recovered during salvage operations. Ira Weaver, a Navy fireman first class, was one of them. Investigators later determined that a system of open valves, left improperly secured, allowed seawater to flood into the ship's lower compartments. The ship, raised, repaired, and returned to service, continued to transport American troops to France until the end of the war and beyond. Hemp Hill And this is Thomas Berry, MD, January 31st, 1870 to December 11th, 1927. Schiller E. Jarrett, Georgia, private, U.S. Army, World War I, October 16th, 1889 to March 28th, 1959. Thank you much for your service, sir. Appears to be Miller and Ira Butt. And then this one, this is in memory, loving memory of Captain Thomas J. Butt, born April 13th, 1834, died March 6th, 1895. Thank you much for your service, sir. This is Hattie M. Billingsley, U.S. Army, World War II, December 14th, 1901 to April 22nd, 1993. Thank you very much for your service, ma'am. Another cast iron enclosure here. This is J.A. Butt, born April 6, 1840, died December 10th, 1905. Thank you much for your service, sir. And Layla Butt, April 15th, 1870 to July 22nd, 1916. Here we have Major John Butt, born December 6, 1806, died January 23rd, 1884, age 77 years, 1 month, and 2 days. This one's broke, but it's John G. Butt, born March 19th, 1842, died November 6th, 1884, age 42 years, 7 months. And I can't see the days. Thank you both for your service, sir. You got some fieldstone markers here. And I don't know if this is vandalized or just happens to not been able to stand to the test of time very well. We have James Andrews Reed, July 28th, 1865 to September 4th, 1909. And this is Joseph Reed, born May 16th, 1820, died January 3rd, 1888. Here we have one just on this side here. This is Ted W. Weaver, Georgia, PFC, Army, Air Forces, World War II, August 11th, 1908 to July 4th, 1973. Thank you much for your service, sir. This is Edgar Allan Paber, Greeley, Colorado, December 3rd, 1870. Blairsville, Georgia, July 5th, 1940.
Edgar Allan Paybor was born in Colorado to William Edgar and Emma Helm Paybor. His father, William, was a writer, poet, journalist, promoter, and visionary town builder. He published a book of poetry titled Poetical Works of William Edgar Paybor, 1872. He also wrote Colorado as an Agricultural State, 1883, which promoted settlement and farming in the state. He was a key figure in the founding of several towns. Most notably, he founded Paybor Lake and Paybor Lake Colony, Florida, in 1882, and Fruita, Colorado, in 1884. He envisioned this as a fruit-growing colony and actively promoted horticulture in the West. Paybor had a strong belief in the potential of irrigation and fruit cultivation in the arid regions of Colorado. His writings and promotional work helped attract settlers and investors to the state. Edgar was a prominent businessman and Methodist church member in Blairsville and Union County. He graduated from the University of Denver in 1892, spending much of his time conducting business between Jacksonville, Florida, and Atlanta. He finally retired at his Blairsville estate, where he found purpose in the Methodist Church until his death.
Jesse P. Weatherford, Georgia, Staff Sergeant, Company B, 760th Tank Battalion, World War II, June 26, 1917 to July 4th, 1956. Thank you much for your service, sir. And Wallace Slodek, Corporal, U.S. Army, World War I, September 28, 1893 to June 23, 1965. Thank you much for your service, sir. Like a couple of Widowmakers here. So here we have Albert C. Colwell, Georgia, Private 129th Ambulance Company, World War I. I'll figure out what that PH stands for. March 6, 1891 to June 2nd, 1958. Thank you much for your service, sir. Charles R. Allison, Tech 4, U.S. Army, World War II, July 17th, 1922 to April 19th, 1995. Thank you much for your service, sir. We have Taylor N. Allison, Georgia, PFC, U.S. Army, World War I, November 10th, 1888 to August 25th, 1973. And Sidney Y. Allison, First Lieutenant, U.S. Army, World War II, May 27th, 1924 to October 31st, 1960. Thank you much for your service and sacrifices, sir. This is Bill Meeks, Staff Sergeant, U.S. Army Air Corps, World War II, October 1st, 1914 to June 19th, 1994. Thank you much for your service, sir. Well, that wraps up the new Blairsville Cemetery here in Blairsville, Georgia. It's a quaint little cemetery and nice. Looks, for the most part, well kept. Some large families here. Looks like some prominent family names. And, you know, if you're ever in the area and want to stop by for a quick little visit, I'm sure it's quite easy to get to, quite easy to get out of. And I would say, other than the traffic noise, it's quite pleasant. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate each and every one of you. And you guys have a blessed day. We'll see you on our next walk.